Steve, Santa Cruz, I guess, were pretty late to the e-mountain bike party.
They were late, yep.
In 2019. This is the first Heckler. Now, the first Heckler was 27.5-inch wheels, front and rear, 150mm travel. Remember, this bike had the Shimano E8000 motor on it, which was quite different to the newer EP8 motor, which we'll talk about in the most recent Heckler. And the biggest difference is actually the fact that this bike has got a 504 watt-hour battery. Now, I do notice that obviously Steve did get tuned into e-bikes quickly because he does have a spare battery. Obviously, you liked it pretty instantly, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I was going out with a few mates that had different brands of bikes, and I was running out of power a little bit too quick, so I got a spare battery and I could carry one with me. Yeah,
obviously enjoying it. Now, folks, we're going to move on now to the more recent Heckler over here. Now, it's dirty because me and Steve were out on Steel City downhill yesterday riding. We're also out in the woods around Sheffield. Yep. I mean, Steve, Sheffield is an amazing place to ride an e-bike, right?
Oh, there's loads of stuff to go at, and my local is short and steep, so you can get back up really quick and do more of the good stuff.
And the great thing about this Heckler 29 is that it's got a 700 watt-hour battery in it.
It does.
Which gives you more range.
Yep.
Now, the Heckler comes in two forms. It comes in the Heckler 29, which is this one here, which is Steve's been riding, and also the 27.5, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now, as I mentioned, this is now a 700 watt-hour battery. It's got a Shimano EP8 motor in it. It's more adjustable, isn't it, than the previous E8000?
Yeah, it is different.
But do you adjust the bike ever, or do you just go factory settings?
I don't. Get it set up and go for it. Yeah, it works fine for me.
Yeah. 29-inch wheels, again, this time now 150, 160. Now the difference in the Hecklers, you can either get the Heckler MX, which has got a shorter chainstay and a smaller back wheel. And the chainstay on the MX, I think, is 445, and on the 29 is 461. Now this means that when you ride the bikes, they're actually quite different. You could argue this is possibly more of a trail bike, and the MX is, it's just different. It's not better, it's just different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different, yeah. Cornering wise, I feel like if you're coming into a fast corner on a 29-inch bike, you need to brake before and then get off the brakes, get your speed set, get off the brakes and let it like carry around and carry speed out.
Yeah.
Whereas on a 27.5, bit smaller back end, you can throw it in a little bit more, brake a little bit later and be a little bit more aggressive with it.
Yeah. Now you're 6'4".
Yep.
I'm guessing you ride a
6'3".
6'3". So what's
probably 6'2" now. I'm getting old.
Come on, don't give me that. Don't give me that. I tell you what, you wasn't hanging about yesterday, that's for sure. What size bike is this?
This is an XL.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how I mean, we're looking at these incredible bikes from the past above here. You know, what we've got here, folks, is the 2005 224, which Steve won Fort William on. And this is the helmet. This is actually the helmet from that day.
We called it the Bumblebee,
right.
And I designed that sticker kit around it, made it all yellow, because at the point, Mavic were making us run those yellow rims, and they looked ridiculous on all the bikes. They stood out too much.
Those were the custom 321s, weren't they?
Yeah, and they made all the factory teams had to ride the yellow rims. So I designed the bike to be yellow to take away from the rims, and it looks cool.
It's funny actually, the geometry on that 224 is ahead of the game. It's probably not too dissimilar, I probably think you'll find, from maybe the Bullet, which we should possibly talk about next.
Here's the Bullet.
The Bullet, I mean, what a beautiful colour. Got to be one of the nicest colour e-bikes on the market for sure, right? This is the EP8 motored Shimano bike. 630 watt-hour battery on this, isn't it?
That is right, yep.
But a very different bike. This time it's 170mm travel front and rear, 29-inch wheel front, 27.5 on the rear. Steve, do you know when you're riding these bikes, I mean, you've got 4 bikes in here. Have you got like a preference of which one you take out?
To be honest, the Hecklers are quite new to me. I've been riding the Bullet for a couple of years and I love the Bullet. It can get hefty, it can take some big hits, you can do some like quite gnarly downhill stuff on it and it can take it. Whereas like the Heckler 29, I've had a couple of rides on it, it felt really good on the Steel City downhill the other day, it was carrying speed well and that's a little bit smoother track. I've not had it on some real rough stuff yet.
So here's a question for you then. Do you think you can ride faster downhill on an e-bike or on a non-e-bike?
Personally, I think there's a certain power to weight kind of scenario on that, and I think the e-bike might be a little bit heavy where it feels like it's slowing down a little bit in some places.
Depends on the track then, maybe?
Depends on the track, yeah, and like rolling speed. If you were just stood rolling on an e-bike, I feel like it would go slower than a lighter trail bike.
One thing which I've noticed on all these bikes is they're tubeless. Now, Steve has actually introduced me to the idea of getting out of my stuck in my ways. I can see we've got, actually we should talk about tubeless valves. I mean, we've got, you know, a big part of your dungeon is Peat's products, let's face it.
We've got some pink ones here that suit you, pal.
How long have you been doing Peat's products now?
Peat's products is just over 5 years old.
Okay, right. Yeah. So we're talking tubeless, which, watch this space. We've got
tubeless
lubes, we've got cleaner.
Part of it, yep.
Yeah,
cleaner,
chain lube.
lubes, brushes for washing, which I need to use some of my products at the moment on these bikes.
We'll look at that a bit. Coil shock, folks. Know the difference between the Heckler and the Bullet. Also the 38 fork, Steve. I mean,
I upgraded on this to 38 fork. Yeah, I just like that bigger fork. I ride downhill bikes. I ride 40s. I like a little bit bigger fork.
Do you know what? One of the things I've noticed, all these bikes have got flat pedals on them. Now, you probably won all your World Cup races on clips.
I did.
What's going on there then?
I was riding more for fun. I wasn't trying to go really fast on it, and I was just playing around with my mates, popping to the pub for a quick Guinness after and stuff like that. And I just enjoyed riding flats. Because I've spent all my career riding clipped in, it was nice to learn to ride flats again and have a bit of fun. So on my e-bike bikes, I tend to ride flats a little bit more.
This looks like a freshie, Steve.
This is brand new. I've not actually been out on this bike yet.
Okay, so this is now the Heckler MX.
It is.
Again, it's still the Shimano EP8 motor on there with a 700 watt-hour battery. But the good thing about the EP8 is it's fully customizable. You can have 2 presets on there where you can have like a preset where you get more range and you can get a preset where you get more power. But as Steve mentioned, he actually uses it in factory settings out of the box. 27.5, as I mentioned, there's a short chainstay on this bike, which affects the handling. We've now got an air shock on there. We've also got that's quite a nifty bottle, Steve. What's going on here?
It's a little fidlock, Pete, it's fidlock.
Right. Do you know when you go out on an e-bike ride, do you go with a backpack or do you just kind of go lightweight?
I don't need a backpack, I don't carry tubes, Steve. But basically, for me, obviously, I'll take a few Allen keys and I'll take an air canister and a plugger so you can plug your tyre if you do get any holes in it. So don't carry much these days. And what I do carry, I like to put in my pockets.
Have we got Chris King? Oh, I do love a Chris King wheel.
We've got Chris King hubs on all my bikes.
I do. And also I noticed you got Shimano on lots of your bikes. Shimano Bree, this I think is 200 front and rear on this bike.
Yeah, we use 200s, put them on all the bikes.
I guess you know when you're anchoring up 80 kilos, you've got to have 200s, haven't you?
Yeah. And the rest.
Max's tyres, folks. Bergtech seat on here. Gearing seems to be similar across all bikes. I'm guessing 1051 gearing on there. XTR derailleur on the back. And that's it. That's a quick look at Steve's dungeon. And I mean, wouldn't you love to own all these bikes and have the choice? Steve, thanks so much for showing us around. If you've not seen Steve in action on Steel City Downhill, make sure you check out that video because he's absolutely flying. Steve, thanks so much.
Cheers, mate.